morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unk and Market Monk. Morning, P. How's your week?
It was good. I had some EVgo. Just sort of didn't really do much there, but just to sell when it popped up. Quite a bit of crypto for me, but it's been mostly MSTR. Just off of the 130 area was where I just went long on that and pushing 180. So scaled out of quite a bit of that. Just kept it light and then just hit the notes. Caught snow and now yes on Friday and just sort of saw that coming. And it's one of those things. I mean, there was so much that did well on Friday, but you have to trade something. So you got to find a setup that you can read and you're confident in. So I think there's when the market tends to make a move like that, a lot of people they just kind of stare in disbelief, and then they wait too long, and then try to chase something. But if you're gonna trade options, you just got to be ready.
Yeah, no, definitely. Good to hear you got the old EV Go. Definitely, definitely had some of that over here. Was not really a long term thesis, but it was supposed to be a longer thesis. You get the news. Just thankful that you were in, the last 2 months with the longer thesis. If you took my DCA talk from last week and applied that to when I started talking about EVgo, you'll kind of figure out how that was almost perfect timing for me. I mean, it could have stayed there a little longer, like CLSK did last year, but people get impatient. 3 4 months for a 100% move like that pretty much is smoking. And then China continuation.
Yeah,
Don't really post those much, but it's not hard to play charts in an uptrend. Currently, that's a sector. It's not the sexiest sector in the whole world, but very playable. I assume from your side, it's damn near easy because you just have stuff that hasn't been active that gets active. You're like, why am I seeing BABA 120s and 30s? Where'd that come from? Um,
yeah, no, absolutely, and it's one of those things too. It's a little weird with flow. So like in chips, it's AVGO instead of NVIDIA for me that I read just because of I think it's just less noisy and all that. And so in with China, it's usually it's Baidu and uh, and JD and then Beak really like one comes in, and that's a whole nother thing with the Chinese real estate. But yeah, and then Baba, around our spots. Baba was really easy. If you could have just been patient and just waited at some of our spots because those were not likely to break down. I mean, Baba was not going to go to $50, so you just buy some shares and you just wait it out. Options, even leaps, bled out a lot over that time, so that wasn't really where you wanted to be either. My my biggest DCA focus had been oil for a while, and a lot of those took off a little faster than I thought they would. So I didn't get as much as I'd planned on, but that's how it goes, and it's better to be that way than the other way, where you're just in too heavy and it keeps going down. So um,
yeah, and it just you're definitely seeing, I guess, the whole sector. I didn't expect that to be the next sector. Don't get me wrong. The rotation into
yeah,
China, I expected, industrials or more beat up small caps to continue, but um, I'm assuming a lot of people didn't do a hour long session 4 or 5 months ago on China, so they didn't have the sector covered well.
uh,
But
yeah. I pushed for that pretty heavy, and the thing is, a lot of these contracts now that got really explosive, they bought a lot of those back then, and it was just sort of stagnant open interest for months, and then they took off. So that's often when you buy time. I mean, that's how that's often how it functions. It just doesn't move. It doesn't move instantly. Um, those stocks need that favorable news. Usually, it's government intervention, and
Yeah.
and here we go.
That's usually just like a excuse me. That's usually just like a sector though. For the people
Yeah,
following at home, when China, it's not like crypto's its own sector. It kind of affects everything. But when China goes, it's like well, it's China housing or China EV or China education for some god awful reason. Uh,
yeah,
this time you're getting the whole. I mean, even some of the crappy the crappy app smalls like Momo and stuff moving with with this move, and you're still getting that continuation over a couple weeks, which I think that's the bigger point, not necessarily with China, but we'll get into SPY like we always do, but that consolidation in SPY, and you're gonna have hotter sectors, and that's not a day thing. It's usually at least like a 2 or 3 week, if not a 2 or 3 month thing that you're gonna just have. I mean, because if you look at the China charts, we haven't had the pullback yet. You expect it to pull back and consolidate once or twice, um,
yeah,
and it just hasn't happened. So I think this is new waters for a lot of people, where you're looking at the bigger stuff or maybe your regular stuff, and if there's no news there, and you're kind of at a consolidation spot on those charts, like you're only gonna get the pre-market retrace, right, or the pop and fade. Like you got all that coming back, and when there's better places to play, but the key is you got to be ready, and have those sectors. That's why the studying and building watch lists are important, I think. So kudos to you, because
yeah,
I ran right back to that. I mean, I posted it in the group, but I made sure to run right back to that list, and I'm like, what am I missing? Because I know we went over 25
yeah,
names. I mean, I still have it.
yeah, yeah.
I still have it. It's still in here. I still have my China, but yeah, yeah. I mean, we had this 4 months ago, so just being ready is super important. I think makes it a little easier to buy something like a Tal or a Tiger, um, which those are the smalls that get picked up along the way.
Yeah, and it's just so much easier to already be in some of that stuff, or the sector well enough to see the laggers and see where where they might take off from. And with with something like Baba, I mean, getting to 100 can definitely just be sort of the the starting point, or that psych, and then it takes. We've talked about that before. Just you can hit a number, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then people pile in. I mean, I had that kind of a smaller version of it, but that happened with now. It's $900 stock, but the way the flow was set up and the way the volume is actually pretty low on it, uh, breaking 900 is going to at least go to 910 from what I could tell, and then make a push at 920 as an options trade. I mean, that's kind of all you need on a stock that big.
Yeah,
So yeah, the psychs matter a lot.
I looked at it on Friday. The meme made me look at it. I'd look at it because of the meme. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but man, did it have some pretty low volume. Um, yeah, barely traded a million shares, and it
yeah,
was $900 stock. So, and it was an all-time high. Those are checks, but those are checks in the wrong way for me. So I was like, man,
yeah,
this
sure.
one's like built for options. Where like Lily, I don't see it as much because it is a bigger float. But this guy can move to $30, $40 for you. It'll dance.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. It's
um,
I mean, one that I trade like that, I mean, I usually prefer a little more, but it just depends. MDB is the same kind of thing.
yeah, but I can buy
We
220 shares
we
of
just
there.
had exactly, yeah, and we just have, we've got levels on that one. I had a level on now. Well, I had two, but it was like 650 and 720 or something. So it's way the hell gone. But,
No,
yeah.
I'm just talking to our conversation last week. Yeah, it was a simple question, just like, hey, kind of run through DCAs on both for both of us, and you you figure out that just some basic stuff a lot of people are missing, especially in the Twitter world. I'll give you my level. I don't think I can give you patience. You know,
Yeah,
so
right, right.
here you go. I mean, I dropped my Tesla level a long time ago, when it did bounce off 100, and you know, I've flexed on that a few times, and it's proven itself since then. I mean, I'll pull it up right now if people really want. It's if you buy my level, you're not bagged, and I think people will still fumble it. So I'm the older or longer we get in this, the less I'm worried about like, you know, concealing my level or what I got, because there's so many other things that really get in the way of people. The level isn't the magic trick, right? Like you got to do a little work. You got to set an alert too. You got to have a
Yeah,
plan. You know, you got to have a plan. You know, you got to do a lot of things. If not, you're just kind of pissing in the wind. Um,
right.
and in general, I'm sure on options, and that I always think about you guys when I refresh things. Like, man, you know, this is kind of hard. Make sure you're doing your repetitions. It's not always easy. I think, man, these guys are like doing it at 4x speed because those contracts move so fast, and you can go to zero. And like our conversation with Coin last week, losing 5K. You know what you'd have to do share side and what you'd have to do option side. It's night and day. And um,
Oh yeah,
so yeah, I always just think about, man, if you're gonna trade options, you just better be a management pro, and I think that's why you do, is because your organizational skills are so high from you know your career,
um,
but for me, it's just like I like to
yeah,
set it and forget it. I like not, I don't want to be over like a, you know, 190 to a par five, right? Trying to get on the green
yeah,
in two and be thinking, man, is that 4K I got in Rocket Lab okay?
yeah.
I
Right,
just
right.
I just don't. I'm just thinking, you know
Yeah,
what? I got a good entry. I DCA'd out a little bit, so I got not necessarily some free shares, but my average is down to next to nothing. You know, I think the wind's blowing 3 miles to the right here. I better hit it off to the left a little bit.
yeah. And and so the style of my notes, which there's a lot of different ways I could write those notes, but I write them in a way that's useful to me, and I don't. I mean, I hope they're useful to people, but I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna change how I trade options because for someone else, because this works for me. A lot of it came from, you know, I have a day job. I'm working all day. I can read, like, here's the flow from the night before. Here's pre-market. Here's a pivot. If this, I'm going to do this. If that, I'm going to do this. And
Exactly.
then it's very quick in the morning. And then
English
and
word,
then that,
English word, predetermined,
yeah,
predetermined,
yeah,
predetermined.
exactly. And then if it doesn't do where I expect, or things go wrong, just cut it and move on. But the way sometimes people want to use those notes is like the move happens.
Yeah.
Is this still good?
No.
I No, it's not to me. So it's if and then people, they're like, well, my schedule doesn't work to trade in the morning like that. That's perfectly fine. You can buy some shares of plenty of stuff, and you're not looking even at these aren't small gains you get from these positions. If you buy lemonade down here and you're patient, you just wait, you're gonna do very well. Uh, why do I think that? What's been here before? Roku, same thing.
He
I mean,
said I've
there's a
been here
lot of them.
before. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of them like that, and so
A
I don't want
52,
people to
a
think that.
52 was hard on Roku. 52 was hard. Hard to do.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Hard to do.
Yeah,
I mean, for
but
me, you just kind of, it is that having a plan. I mean, the plan, like in and outs are easy for me because they're based on
yeah,
numbers. It's how much, like, you know, when you do get that initial big candle, or you know, it's just grinding up, but it's not really moving. You know, how much to take off the table, and you know, you figure out what works best for you in the long run, because the swing trading from the share side is so much different than your options. I'm assuming you're not holding like uh, a monthly option that is up 400%. Even if you have a runner on that first pullback, it's probably just taking the high point of that money.
yeah. No, it is. And I mean the roll, like if you want to roll something, I mean the way I do it, um, I roll when a stock is in what looks like a pretty ridiculous move up, and I roll to a long shot strike out of the money with more time, and then it'll hit it sometimes. MSTR did that. I started buying options on MSTR, um, pretty heavy, around the 130 area. I got rid of most of them, and then I've just been rolling the last couple of them, and they just keep going in. SMCI did that on the way up last time, and I think Goose did that too. But you know, it was like $100 roll, and you add it up later, you made like $4,000 on it. If you kept the original one, you know, oh well, hey, this would have been $16,000 by now. But no one trades like that. You just not you've seen SMCI. I mean, you're
Yeah,
not going to do that on a stock like that.
yeah.
So, that's just that's ridiculous Twitter talk when people get into the maximum possible that they could get, out of anything. Because I don't like having, you know, 3 grand that can drop to 2,200 or go up to 4,800 while I'm teaching Chaucer. I don't do that shit.
Bro,
So
that got
no, I mean,
a
yeah,
options pullbacks got to feel like child support. Like, man, I just made 3 grand. Nope, it's 2,200.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
Jeez. The
yeah,
only thing you didn't say there, you're off script, P. I mean, I read the script
yeah.
this morning. You didn't read the script. You were supposed to say, I do buy shares and I keep those, so I have a piece.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. This is my use the work, uh, thesis, and honestly, this came out of a little bit of frustration where I was so focused on the style I traded and the options and everything, and then, you know, you're hitting me up. We're working together on a lot of the smalls, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's gonna go, and then I didn't buy any of it because I just wasn't I wasn't focused on that, and I'm like, well, hell, that'd have been easier than what I'm doing. So, you know, so I just started, to build that up, and it was about maybe 20% of what I was doing, back when I started thinking like that, and then and we were about almost a year into the room at that point, and then, now it's about 70-80% of what I'm doing is just, share positions
Hanging out.
and hanging out. My
Well,
if anyone,
I'm assuming you just kind of caught up with where I was. Is like you kind of yeah, you use the work, and I did that reverse with kind of the bigger stuff. Like probably
yeah,
wouldn't have bought coin at 70 if we weren't arguing about it every week. Um, just to be
right,
honest with you, but it is back to the for me it was like I'm trying to trade smalls in a bad environment, and he's calling like your meta call was great. Coin, I mean, just like he's all in these bigger names, and he's talking, way over 20% moves. So I'm
yeah,
gonna start going that way. So I think that you just kind of come around to that of the using the work.
yeah,
And then for me, it's like there was a time where I was like, man, what do I add? Like, it's hard for me to add stuff, so I started following more of your stuff, and then when the smalls turned back on, I was ready for that. And but it's that back and forth um, that we have. But the main point of that is like everyone's going to come around. Like when you see a decent enough reward and you have a decent chunk of change and there's less risk, you're definitely going to just gravitate to that. And for me, like just your when the price targets line up so well. I mean, Redfin was a great example lately. When they just line up so well, it's hard not to believe in the whole story. And you've become a big check for me because you know it's it's a it's like another not scene, but it's like a side quest, right? Like, nope, it's still 12. Nope, still 12. April it was 12. August it was
yeah,
12. Well, son of a bitch.
yeah,
And it goes, and I've seen that both ways. I've seen you call stuff and then like maybe a month later you go, no, those just aren't there anymore, or that might have just been one buyer. I don't know what he was doing. So, having
yeah,
those realistic targets, one of the ones that saved me back in the day was XPEV. You were like, yeah, that's not going any higher, and it dropped 50% from that $20 level. But yeah, so I guess you just kind of you buy in, right, in the long run. And again, we don't not doing this for subs, and Um, we do it every week. We don't. I mean, we make it's hard sometimes. Like I've got off 4 hour plane rides and came and done this. Why? Because I need this work for next week. I need it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And and then I also I hope people have been in some things that just we're allowed them to benefit from this overall market move we've had the past few years. Whether it's just your retirement account even or whatever. The constant in and out can leave people flat or worse. A lot of them worse than that. Even as the market makes this dramatic move up, I I mean, if anyone wants my long term thesis, I mean, months and months ago, maybe a year ago now, I just said, I just thought Microsoft, LLY, UNH, I thought those were the best stocks, and so I just kept buying them, and and all three of those did really well for me. And UNH, even as Humana just plummeted, it's $600. So those diverge from each other, which is a topic we can get into sometime. I want to talk about, but and then there's that, and then there's the other thing too. I got a lot of friends that work in oil. I live in Oklahoma, um, but they're investing like they're way too just oil only. If you've been oil only this whole time, you definitely missed a lot. So I think anybody just focused on one thing is going to miss a lot too. And in the trading world, it's usually Nvidia or Tesla. You're just those aren't always going to be giving you great moves or sustained moves or predictable moves. And um, I just I think our approach much better. It just gives you more exposure. It the stuff we were in that day that the Japan thing all broke. That if you were options only calls, like that just killed you that morning. You were done. But for us, it was sort of like, okay, this is a don't chase puts. I'm buying this, this, and this, and they all, that was the bottom on all that stuff. And so having money ready to go, a lot of stuff we were in wasn't really impacted by that or for very long. So it just keeps you safe. I mean, what we do keeps you safe, and if you just buckle down and study and avoid just the casual pop in, the casual asking me about a stock I haven't talked about in 2 months, and you just actually start to use the work, you'll do pretty well.
Yeah, time limitation is definitely an issue that hard for me to take into consideration because I can do what I want, but
Yeah,
it affects people. It really does. And for me, I do remember trading when I had a business, and it was definitely a different monster and a different approach. And um, to be honest, a lot less chart. And I would say if I was an options trader, a lot less flow, like trying to read flow and understand that. I didn't get that until that's hard to do on your phone. But
yeah,
I would definitely follow the news. I preach that, and then um, and still to this day, I think the news is great, and you kind of just fall in love with that thesis and the story of a company, that people don't know about. I mean, that's why everybody, I don't know, at least everyone I know, that's kind of why they got into trading. It's like what I know what the future is going to be through technology or industry, and these guys are going to be it. So I'm gonna invest in them, and that's kind of like the little fire that's lit inside of everybody. So I mean, if you are limited on time, we're still a great place, just for information on shit no one's ever heard of. I mean, you will not hear another uh, Twitter personality ever talk about 9 out of the 10 names on the street, or 3 or 4 out of 10
yeah,
names on the street, and or projects they have, and the market share they should be getting, and where they're going to be in 2026 and how to trade them now. And we have 3 or 4 plays like that, and just getting familiar with things, it's going to help you when you do have time and or a little bit of money. And if you don't have a lot of money, I assume you have a lot of time, so you got to put your little bit of money somewhere. And
yeah,
I think Friday Hymns is a great example. I mean, I posted one thing like, thanks for the pullback,
yeah,
bud, appreciate
yeah. Right.
it. Because we just in the long term, I mean, if you're out there in the real world, teaching a class, swinging a hammer or whatnot, like hey, that's going to be a $20 stock sooner or later down the road. So you're not going to get a, let's say, 25% return on your money pretty easy in the world. So let's just put that here for a little bit. And that's just how you got to
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
it, a longer picture, and it's still usable. And you had, again, the point of that and most of what I'm talking about today is you have to start with what you got, right? I mean, if you want to be a 2, 3 screen looking over Miami Beach trader, that's, you got it. That might be how you want to trade, but if you're in the office and you're on your phone, you got to trade a little bit different.
yeah,
It's just,
yeah.
and starting there, I still think we can benefit people doing that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then one last thing before we get into the boring stuff.
perfect.
Um, the something I see. I posted this in the room where someone was talking about. They're talking about Walmart and Costco and trading. They're like, how are these grocery stores trading at this ridiculous
Market share.
multiple, right? And and it sort of reminded me, like in my own profession, where like you can see someone who's really new and they learned about something that is like a kind of specialized approach within the discipline, but it's sort of like they don't really actually understand it. They can use the words, but they don't have experience applying it. They haven't read all the other stuff you need to know how to do it. Whether they're talking about like, I don't know, the Great Vowel Shift or something. Won't get into all that, but just something specialized. Like I recognize the vocabulary, and I'm like, okay, they don't really know actually what's going on here, and so to say that you know Costco is a grocery store um, is just to miss a lot of what's going on with that business, and it's nothing new. It's
Yeah,
been doing this for
exactly.
years, and or the same thing with you know like people will use wing like uh, you know look at this stupid wing restaurant trading at this ridiculous price. Nothing about float, nothing about share structure, nothing about insider ownership. Like they don't know, no, they don't talk about any of that. It's just it's sort of like this price of this stock looks too high. That's all they're saying, and then
Hmm.
they just throw a vocabulary word um, on it, and there's just so much of that out there. And I'm not trying to be an economist. I'm not even trying to just bury myself in the fundamentals of a stock. I trade on flow and a TA that makes sense. But thinking you know something and what things are supposed to do based on a real limited window of knowledge is a pretty dangerous approach, and that's most of what you're going to see on Twitter from what I've seen.
Yeah, man, we just went through that with Chipotle. I'm not doing it with Wing. That's a once a year thing.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
a once a year thing
Yeah.
for me. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
does it need a 10x split for you to be a $40 stock for you to be happy? I mean, yeah, share structure there, 29 million, bud. Get it through your head.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
it's yeah, no, yeah, that's a tough one for me, P, because that's just, I mean, for me, I trade around that, right? Like I trade, I look as a first, I'd want to know how many cards are on the table. That's like buying a pull tabs and not knowing how many winners are left. For you real redneck people, going, how
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the 500s are already marked off. I'm not buying out of that bucket. The ratio's all wrong. Like same
Well,
thing.
and I will say, and when so you see it on Twitter, but like if whenever it does pop up in the room, and it's pretty rare, but someone's just talking, and they're just like saying something about a stock, and they say something like that. It's just sort of like record scratch. Everybody looks back at them because it's just so far from what we do, and it's not the nature of the work. And I think the people who do that, they learn pretty quickly, or they're not there very long. And it's not like we just boot them out, but uh, they sort of process themselves out. It's not a fit for them. Um, but yeah, I've had plenty of those. Like we'll be in a setup that's just we got it, got our level, got our flow, and then it's like, you know, uh, this business is trash. They're going bankrupt. Carvana, I think it was like
No, that was
30
a
30
fun one.
bucks or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, I
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
one.
So I'm like, whatever. But yeah, so that that's something I see out there too. But
Crypto is the
uh,
same. Crypto was the same way when it was in the dirt. Oh,
oh yeah,
it was the same,
yeah, for sure.
and maybe even
Yeah.
real estate a little bit, to be honest. But
Yep.
that's how it always pans out. Let's get into the boring stuff. What do you got?
All right. So oil, just that kind of that 68 area was lower than what I was thinking. I was 72 was sort of my spot where I'm like, this is where I want to see oil for the flow setup I already see to really make sense. That's where you got to take off from. And so we're now 74. Could park here for a bit, but I have a higher number on oil than you. I think in like the 92
No,
area,
it's
but
the same.
oh okay.
That's the top.
Um,
I mean, it's. I think something has to happen, but that might be the
yeah.
difference. If you think it's getting there naturally, yeah, you got a higher top.
Uh, yeah, no, the natural little channel here is probably like 82, 84, something
You're
like that.
still high.
But
I'm like 78, 72, hanging out.
yeah, mine's just it's just a read of the and the flow might be anticipating something's going to happen. So that's all. There's
Oh,
always that
sure, sure,
that
sure.
side of it. But yeah, so I think we got some good spots on a lot of those, and there's a lot of bigger names that I think could give you a pretty smooth move up just to check back to where they just were. So Cop and a couple others.
Yeah, there's some little island. I had the name. I wrote it down. KHARG. Car. It's like Carg or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
that if that gets in the news, people buy oil stocks.
Yeah.
It's where like Iran pumps all their stuff to put it on boats. Or yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah. It's and there's a couple other people that use it to get it into the Persian Gulf. It just is like a little island there. But if they blow that some bitch up, um, yeah, I was looking
And
into that
then
a little bit. I was really looking into that because I like where the oil charts are, and that's
yeah.
usually how that works. Like if they turn it off or something gets on fire over there, then we have a shortage and prices go up. It's just how it works.
Yeah, I saw people they're trying to kind of dunk on the Warren Buffett about Oxy because
But
he's not up this year on it so far. And I'm like, okay, all right. I don't
he's,
think he cares about that.
I think he's wanting to pull back. To be honest,
Yeah, yeah. He's gonna own most of that company before it's done. But the other one, uranium, is very much primed for a move, 90 plus, maybe 100. Sitting about 82 right now.
yeah, good rotation
And
there on the two main ones we follow and the addition of the new one. But I mean,
yeah,
the Lager made my list this week after the other one had quite the run. So
hmm
good work there, and I think with the just still you said it and haven't said it in a while, so I'm gonna say it for you. But it's gonna take time in that rotation from nuclear being considered clean energy, and we're just seeing that now. So
yep.
good call on that, Pete.
Yeah,
Great
we are at
thesis. Great thesis.
the the tech connection to AI is easier. That makes it easier for people to see it as, oh, okay, this is like an important future thing, and they're not thinking Chernobyl anymore with it. So yeah, no,
Or even
that's
Fukushima.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, we don't even have
um,
to go that. Some people, you say Chernobyl, man. Some of these kids gonna be like, "What? That was just a show on HBO. What are you talking about?"
right. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, and then I don't know where you're at on silver. I'm still I'm still thinking the 36 move, the 32 to 36 move once it starts is going to be pretty fast from what I can tell in option flow.
Yeah, I mean,
So
well, we just had that nice pullback a little bit ago. To under that we didn't we test 26, I believe. Not
yeah,
too long.
tap 26 and change. Yeah.
Yeah, back there in August, and so
Yep.
since then, that's when we kind of got back into silver charts, and some of those have made. I think some of those have made a better move than the price in silver. So
Yeah.
we need that continuation, in my opinion, on the silver, because yeah, I mean it was here where the last high was, the 32 and a half area, and we're right there again. So getting a pullback, even a 30 probably healthy, but we went 26, 28. So yeah, 30 makes sense to me.
There there are a lot of silver charts, and I'm not going to say them because I this is this is the free version. So, but they're in like the $8 to $10 area that are going to be in the $14 to $16
Yeah.
just based on what I see. So, that's those are some easy mode trades for sure.
Do you still just see that as like the EV and overall like needed for stuff like that as a push, or
Yeah,
is
I
there
think the
is it more with the gold and the dollar's fucked thesis?
it's I mean a little bit of both. It's also I mean silver's heavily manipulated and suppressed, and they just sort of like just loosen. They take their boot off its throat a little bit, and it loosens it up and can breathe, and it's gonna go and it's just gonna pop based on that. So I think just taking some of the reins off, just let it run a bit. That that to me is mostly what's going on there.
This
And
is
then
the this is like the last year to date high. I mean, to the penny, it's 32.43 in May. Sorry, just TA's perspective.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, this is your top of probably. I mean, probably a few years. Yeah, this is the high piece. I mean, we're pushing. Maybe if it's the gold thesis, it's lagging a little bit. So silver probably has more range than gold at this point in time, I'd
that's what
assume.
I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly what I'm saying. That
Okay.
that they've suppressed it a bit, and it can just play catch up and go from there. The
Well, hey, well, you didn't
other
say it so a freshman like me could understand this shit.
okay, no, that's fine.
Go for it.
And then so just such a huge opportunity in lithium to me, and I don't.
Yes.
It's not. I don't approach it like it's a tomorrow trade, but then all the
Think
stuff I'm in goes up 7-8% in a day. I'm like, all right, that'll work. But I mean, it's much bigger than that. What's likely to happen here? And I said in the room the other day, I'm like, look, you take something that the government decides, okay, we have to be the leader here, um, and all of a sudden the whatever the commodities attached to it, the sector, whatever, you know, semiconductors, whatever it is, um,
Chargers. Sorry,
chargers,
sorry, that was
yeah,
just a home
that
run.
they're just going to take off, and so many of those charts are just in the dirt, and the lithium miners like they are not really like struggling to stay in business day to day. It's not like but you're not buying Solo, you're not buying Arcimoto, like where it's just some company with no profit and no real hope or whatever. I mean, these are actively these companies are out there, mining, processing lithium, and all of a sudden that commodity takes off, and those charts run 300% on
what
just on that.
what I found in general in commodities, I mean, across the board, are and why I've grown to love them, especially if I can find a chart that makes sense to me, um, is you get the initial and any sector or whatever or thesis that's broad has it where everything kind of lifts a little bit, right? You get like you see with China right now, like everything's kind of picking itself up at the bottom, and then you get the
Yeah.
actual like the game starts and like all right, so these guys are getting their lithium, news stories start dropping, we made a deal with lithium with these guys, and we made a deal with lithium with these guys, so you see like where the money should be, and that kind of lifts it a little bit, and then I mean it's really easy to follow, and then the numbers come in and usually they're really good because they're literally just selling something at usually a better price than normal because the price is lifted and then so the demand is lifted, so the numbers also come in really good usually on those because their management's usually better than a tech company. They don't.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but your lithium mine doesn't have a cafeteria and three Starbucks
Yeah, right,
and three
right.
Starbucks and electric bikes for them to get
There's
back to
no
their car.
there's no day. You mean there's no day in the life TikTok of
No,
working at a
no.
lithium mine? Yeah.
No, no. So, but it's usually it usually just stays broader for longer than like even like
Yeah.
a trying to think of, the Charger one's great, or probably what we're going to see in solar. Like solar, we got the lift right. Haven't really got back to even the bottom of channels on some of those plays, but only one or two of them is going to really probably fundamentally get the news, have a good increase, and get the news and then get the bottom line to increase. Where in oil or lithium or copper or uranium, like it's a lot easier for those guys to perform and for you to be way ahead of that in the cycle of supply and demand increase, then the news kind of play itself out where the money's going to be, and then the actual numbers come out in the report. So I've seen that cycle so many times. Like gold's real good right now. They just kill earnings. They're killing earnings. Anyone that's into gold is killing earnings. It's just,
Yeah.
and that's why the actual gold chart. Now that we're flirting with numbers we ain't seen in a few years. So um,
No, absolutely. And I got one more
copper.
for us. Copper. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it.
So copper to me, building some strength around 450, could pull back like 440 or something like that. But yeah, another test of five looks like it's what is looming there. And then I mean, I think I don't know. It's one of those. It just seems to happen. The 5 to 7 thing for whatever stock or whatever asset or whatever you're talking about. That a lot of things go to five if they're still bullish. They find a way to go to seven, and I think that's probably what'll happen there. And then the stocks that I like, SCCO
Mm-hmm.
is definitely is kind of the one. FCX is the one I read just because it's so active in the flow. It gets a lot more bid side activity that can pull it back harder and things like that. With SCCO, it's just pretty smooth. And then we've talked a long time about the link between copper and aluminum. I don't even really read the aluminum chart. It's just all based on copper and
Yeah, I was about to say
that.
that's what I like Southern, but it has to be closer to that psychological level. And
Yeah,
I always just trade the aluminum.
yeah,
and
yeah. So you're in good shape on those two.
yeah, I think AA was 28 when I stopped buying. So and
Yeah, yeah.
we're testing that 40 level. So
Right. I remember I posted one time for AA, just giving people a sense of the company. They were like a sponsor of like NFL games and documentaries and stuff in like the early 1970s. I mean, they've just been around for this company's not going anywhere. So I mean, it's just kind of one of those deals.
nice. Spy time about 45 here
Yeah,
as
let's
well.
do it.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Um, man, you were I was looking in the minute and a half or two I was here before you showed up this morning, and you were like $1 off each way. P 50,
Yeah.
yeah, 556.20 or 565.27. You were 566.34, so inside $1 there, and then 575.55 on the top, and it was 574.38. So just a dollar and 19, 18 cents or whatever the case may be there. Um, yeah, that tight consolidation though, staying here. Um, Pretty much predicted that last week, and that's what we got. Um, the other the broadening continues. That's what I have. Um,
Yeah, no, I think so. And I mean the interesting parallel to this broadening to me has been how for this 120 area on Nvidia, like it's sort of coiling or whatever you call it. It's kind of parked around there as SPY continues to go up, as other stocks get picked up, and
it's
and
not
this is
healthy. You want to tell you right now.
yeah, and so this is something. Okay, so I think as I look at the flow, and I'm like, what exactly are the possibilities here for SPY on the downside, and how are they treating that? And there have been times over the past couple months where we did call the spots. Like, this is where you want to be careful. This is where it could go, and those drops happen. They don't tend to last very long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't have a lot. It keeps going up. It's 550 now, so
Oh,
550
sure.
monthlies are out there. They're still a little bit bid side, but they're also, I mean, those contracts have some potential. So for them to not just give up and roll higher again, we would have to pull back pretty soon. Yields are going nuts, which is a confusing thing, but that can be bearish.
Yeah, just
So
in general, it's gonna happen. Let's just get that out the way.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think my number one thing though is it will be quick again. Like this last one. This last one was just one. I mean, we went down and retraced in 1 week, as opposed to the three candle pullback. But I think it has to happen at some point. It's the where that's the question. And
yeah,
I mean, this was really strong. That the 540 is 539.96, so that's what that says. But the 540 was real strong. So that's 10. Your 550 is $10 above that. That does make sense at this point. I assume the options that you look at, like, it's big money. It's not little money. It's not a little fish. So it takes them some time to move around, and maybe that's why that rotation took a little bit. If
yeah,
I go more short term though, I mean that 523, 525 area still is not out of the question. So I mean those two targets make sense, but I'm just of the mind like I got to be ready when it happens because I really don't think it's going to last long. So if there's some things you want that are going to be affected by that, Nvidia is a great one. Have some levels ready, and I said a few weeks ago, I don't know if it's 110, 115, or 105. That's what I said on that chart, and it's becoming a little clear, and I'll definitely let the room know exactly how I feel when I think it's time, or we're actually, in that hellish candle. But you kind of just got to expect it at this point in time, P. You really do.
yeah. No, you do, and then it'll be one of those pre-market mornings where I'll just say don't chase puts,
Yeah.
um, and then we go, again. So I'm really interested
Don't be
in.
talking to me about VIX during those moments, please. Pay attention to what we've been working on.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, right. No,
Sorry.
yeah. Um, I don't think I've ever even tried to reflow on VIX,
No, not you.
honestly.
Just in general, people bring it up in the
Yeah.
room.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've never talked about this. It's not the time for that, sir. Um,
Um, 562 area uh, is of interest to me going into the week. Um, I'm gonna know I'm wrong pretty fast if Monday Tuesday doesn't sort of get us there. But that's 562.76 is the bottom for me,
that's
and
pretty deep. Okay, okay.
and I'm just gonna go 576.09.
576. That's a big candle.
Yeah.
A little bigger than this week. Is that your top end? There's nothing up there?
No, there's a
Or like tight?
it's basically like I'm thinking like yeah. So the flow the attempt at 575 is going to wick above it. Is basically what I'm thinking. That's
Gotcha.
all.
So they're not 580s like midway through November yet. Like
No, no, they
they're
don't,
good.
and they haven't been trading that way in a really long time. Where
So
they just go, they set a target out of the money and go hit it. Like they don't really do it like that. It's mostly bid side.
yeah, I'm assuming when they're up versus when they're even or down, they play differently, right? Like kind of like chess.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you have someone pinned, you play differently than when you're getting pushed around, and they're probably ahead. I'd assume. I mean, hasn't touched a 50 in how long? um,
yeah. Well, and I think when a lot of the ask side puts that come in, and it can be hard to see, but they're buying those back that they sold. Basically, is what happens. So it's not always just even. Oh, here's a big push to push us much lower. It's their hedge. Their hedge got back to even, so they're just going to get out and reposition. There's a lot of that going on.
Perfect. I'm gonna go with this 564.76. It's a auto RTL here on 1 hour chart 20-day that popped up mid-month last month, but it hasn't really touched it. So if we do get some pullback, that'd be an area I'd watch. And then the top end, like, yeah, if you don't have anything crazy, 575, 69, shout out Goose. I'm with you with the wick. You're probably in a better spot to top point that wick, but um, I'm kind of buying into that thesis. If you don't get it Monday, Tuesday that you said, probably it's not happening because
Yeah.
I do see that. So um, I bet color of this candle next week, Pet Professor, red or green?
I'll say red.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, just because we're in
Yeah.
73 already, basically, it won't be hard to close a little bit below that. Still a decent week out there, though, in broadening land.
Yeah, right. And okay. So before we close today, I'm just sort of wondering, you know, politically, or just to the extent to which people attribute like presidencies to market or whatever, um, like the Biden presidency, whatever you want to say about it, the markets performed very well during that his presidency. Not I'm not attributing that to him. That's a logical fallacy, in my opinion. But as the election approaches, it's to me it sort of feels like the market can kind of make up whatever story it wants about what it's going to see as favorable between those two. And I mean, I think that there's so much that used to just be. It's because interesting to me. I mean, the country is very partisan and very divided. But you look at like the effect on different sectors and things, and it's actually not as divided as it used to be. Weed is not just a red blue thing anymore. I don't even think solar is. I don't even think Democrats are perceived as being destructive to the oil industry in the same way that they used to be. So the election itself can be a kind of a short term catalyst thing, but there's just so much, and a lot of it's driven by ETFs to keep pushing the market higher. But I just don't see it as a big impactful event in and of itself. Maybe there's things they could do that would, but just like who wins or loses, to me, doesn't seem like it's going to create some long term trajectory. But I don't know your take on that.
No, no, it should. I mean, people are gonna guess it. It's speculative, so like, you're just gonna have pushes and whatever people speculate is gonna be beneficial by whoever wins, and whatever's gonna on both ends, what's not gonna be good and what's gonna be good, and that definitely
Yeah,
is becoming harder to not only predict but to get any sort of accuracy. And um, as opposed to the market going up, I mean, I said it probably halfway through last year, like if inflation keeps happening, this market has to kind of follow that too. So, um, but
oh yeah, no, that's true. Yeah,
but I mean, the dollar's not worth what it was 2 years ago in general. But yeah, I think the market. I would be more worried about the ongoings in the Middle East and the election affecting the market from an
yeah,
overall
right.
perspective. But the presidential changes is going to be what it always is. It's hopeful for some things, and it's not hopeful for some other things. And again, that's just getting harder to dictate who's on what side, like you were saying, of what. So yeah, I'm not. I don't. If it's anything, it's short term, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
Bigger issues out there currently, a lot bigger issues out there. I mean, there's two or three conflicts that are pretty serious. So, and it could affect supply chain. Like even that strike we just had, P. That was probably more of a market affecting situation than voting red or blue in November. So
Yes,
luckily they got that handled because that would have been. I mean, yeah, that could have been real bad.
and by the way, in my view too, and I'll close with this: the way that Bitcoin has kind of like sold out to the big, BlackRock and all those people, that that kind of money in there can rotate out quickly into gold on Middle East conflict. So and that creates a lot of kind of extra volatility in crypto too. So that I think there'll be some opportunities there for us as well. We've already been doing that, but as crypto kind of thinks about another move to all time high, possibly, I mean that's something to to stay aware of as well. And if you want some shares that move like options, there's going to be some of that in those crypto stocks too.
That's great because next time we talk about crypto, I'm gonna be mentioning the HBO documentary that's about to drop. Y'all need to watch that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're ready to get to work, P?
yeah, yep.
All right, like and
All right,
subscribe
I got
somewhere, people.